This is VK6ARN, Newswest. We are a community organisation and we've been serving up the best amateur radio news in Australia since 1931.
Hi there, I'm Clinton, VK6FCRC, and welcome to Newswest for the 22nd of September 24. Hope you guys are having a good time at Perth Tech. Now on with the show.
Foundations of Amateur Radio. The other day I was handed a sheaf of paper. The person handing it to me, an amateur, was insistent that I take custody of this little collection. I asked what it was that they intended for me to do with it, and the response was that because I did things with history, I should do this too. Aside from taking on a new project, trying to juggle life and income, their observation was pretty spot on, even though I had never quite seen it that way. Over the years, I've often explained things in the context of the era in which it came into being. The first transatlantic telegraph cable in 1858, the first 20-metre contact between the UK and Australia back in 1925, the founding of the IARU, also in 1925. For some years I've been playing with the idea of documenting the journey from spark gap to SDR. I started writing down milestones, collecting information about the various protagonists along the way, attempting to capture their life milestones and their radio-related accomplishments. One friend went so far as to take photos of the replica spark gap transmitter in Hobart, Tasmania, as used by Douglas Mawson between 1911 and 1914 during their Antarctic expedition. Between being entrusted with the written history of the 28th chapter of the 1010 International Net and today, I've started a spreadsheet. If you know me at all, you know that I love a good spreadsheet. This one is pretty simple. Date, event type, protagonist, note and source. So far I've got about 85 rows. I'm using it to capture milestones directly related to our hobby. When the first Echolink node went live, when RTTY came to be used on air, the invention of FM, when we got access to the 2-metre band, when 160 metres was taken away during World War II. Ultimately, all of it. There's already a website that documents some of this, but it's USA-centric, even though our community is global, and it does not include any sources, so there's no way to verify any of the events, which I think is essential if you're going to capture this in any meaningful way. I want this list I'm creating to include all manner of amateur-related things. The first time F-Troop went on air, the first CQ worldwide, perhaps even every CQ worldwide. I've also set up a form so you can contribute your events and over time grow it into something that captures what it is that we've done over the years. Perhaps it will grow into a section on Wikipedia. Perhaps it will become its own thing. It's too early to tell. As I've said many times, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So this is me, or us, writing it down. Perhaps we'll be able to find a way to make it through the next 100 years. You can find the Amateur History Project under Projects on my homepage at VK6FLAB.com. I look forward to reading your contributions. So thank you, Christine, Victor Kilo 6 Zulu Lima Zulu, for pushing that sheaf of paper into my hands. I hope I'm worthy of the history that it represents. I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Foxtrot Lima Alpha Bravo.
Hi, just a little note about VK6RRG and the WARG Technical and General Net. Having it run every Sunday morning on VK6RLM, that's 146.750, or Channel 3 in the old money. And it starts at 10:30 a.m. this morning. Of course, if you're listening in the evening, it's next week.
On Tuesday afternoons and evenings, the 40 and 80 metre bands come alive with the sound of slow CW. Who would have thought that this ancient art, which some say was once such a dreaded part of the amateur licence test, would become so popular in these days of modern communications? The uncontrolled net is run in designated portions of the two bands to encourage new CW operators to have a go at slow CW in a safe and really friendly environment. Slow speed and lots of mistakes are par for the course. It's all about having a go, starting with a basic call sign and RST exchange, then over time getting better and better. The net also attracts its fair share of old-timers who enjoy helping others to have a go or to just enjoy the banter. The CQQRS net started in Western Australia 3 years ago and has been running every single Tuesday and has been unbelievably popular. The net runs from 3 p.m. until about 7 p.m. on 40 metres, then moves to 80 metres, and we've had up to 60 stations on air having a go. And who knows how many listeners are out there every Tuesday as well. So the CQQRS net is on 40 metres between 0700 Zulu and 1100 Zulu, that is 3 p.m. until 7 p.m, and is held between 7020 and 7040 kHz. Then between 0900 Zulu and 1300 Zulu, which is 5 p.m. until 9 p.m, we're on between 3540 and 3570 kHz every Tuesday. There's no net control, so when you're ready to have a go, just find a quiet spot and start calling CQQRS at about 75% of the speed you can copy. Most stations will match your speed, so go slow until you're really comfortable with CW. So this might be just the opportunity you've been waiting for to have a go at transmitting on CW, or perhaps just to stop the contacts rusting up on your key. Doesn't matter whether you're brand new to the code, or if you're an old-timer who would like to have a bit of fun and help encourage new operators by having simple, safe QSOs at their speed. We'd love to have you join in. Too much switch mode power supply hash on 80 metres? This might be the incentive to do something about it. With a cheap noise canceller costing less than $100, 80 metres could be easier than you think. So again, the net starts at 3 p.m. every Tuesday above the DX segment on 40 metres between 7020 and 7040. Then, after 7 p.m, moves to 80 metres between 3540 and 3570 kHz. There are usually stations in the west, east and in between listening out for your CQQRS call. For more information and to receive our free weekly CQQRS RagTune newsletter, contact me, Mark, VK6QI, via the email on qrz.com, or you can use our address cqqrsnet@gmail.com. That is cqqrsnet@gmail.com, and I'll be pleased to have a chat.
This is Newswest, your amateur radio news on VK6ARN, originating on the Newswest linked repeater network and HF relays.
Hi, I'm Steve, VK6SJ, with this week's episode of Did You Know? How many of us have the last 2 or 3 or more radios they've replaced still sitting in the shed gathering dust? The amount of photos I've seen of shacks the world over that have 4 or 5 radios neatly set up on shelves, either in a shack for use or just sitting in a shed or storeroom, is mind-boggling. Often the reason for keeping an old radio is that the value is so low that the nostalgia of that radio exceeds the amount you could get for it. In today's environment of $500 software-defined radios outperforming a conventionally designed radio purchased for $5,000 15 years ago, this is now often the case. So thinking about the nostalgia of an old radio that isn't worth selling, what if you gave or long-term loaned that radio to a new ham? You might be encouraging a young person in your neighbourhood who's asked you what that big mast is for, offering along with some assistance to your local high school as a STEM program, or just giving it to someone who's interested enough to do a foundation licence but doesn't yet have the required funds to purchase their first HF rig. Either way, seeing someone get the same joy you once did with an old radio, otherwise not being used, is a good way to relive the fun you had with that same rig. A long time ago, I was a beneficiary of an act like that. I'd sold my old CB to pay for a bus fare to Perth to sit my novice licence test. On arriving back, the president of the club I was in loaned me his converted CB, which I had a lot of fun with in the first year and so that I was on air. Other hams in the club also assisted me with stuff they weren't using. The result of that has resulted in a lifelong enjoyment of the hobby. Along those lines, why not get your local club interested in approaching your local schools and organisations like the Scouts and Girl Guides, etc., to not only run a session about ham radio, but donate some radios for the use once licensed. You might find an influx of new young members that might breathe a new lease of life to a club that might be getting a bit stale. The cost of this is a bunch of slightly older radios that would otherwise only be gathering dust in the shack. Sounds like a bargain to me. Another idea I wouldn't mind floating is that all the clubs in Perth get together and form a bank of older radios for this purpose. I'm not talking about boat anchors that only the most experienced hams will be able to get going. I'm thinking of radios that are 10 to 15 years old, but while not having HDMI ports and software-defined brick wall filters and the like, can still be connected to a PC and used on FT8 and are still in good working order. I know at Ham College we often get either bequeathed radios or asked by a Silent Keys family to assist in getting rid of old radios. I have to say, I personally often run a mile from those opportunities, mainly because we have a room of boat anchors and no room for any more. At Ham College we are getting well over 100 new hams on air each year, many of which could benefit from a donation of a radio. Maybe it's part of joining their local club. I'm sure Ham College could, and has done in the past, provide a plug for local clubs as part of the foundation course, and knowing a new member may be able to gain or be loaned their first radio would be a huge draw card. So, why not have this kind of conversation at your next club meeting? I think you'll be surprised at what a bunch of club members could put together as a bank of gear, and the ongoing benefits to the club of a bunch of new members. Stop leaving all those great rigs gathering dust and put them to use that will benefit yourself, your community, and the hobby in general. Thanks for listening again. This is Steve, VK6SJ, with another episode of Did You Know? If you'd like a text copy of this or other articles, that will be posted to my blog page at dxradiosystems.com.au about 2 weeks after it's gone to air.
Good morning, this is VK6XR Victor with this week's hotline for the 22nd of September 2024. So I have the following for you. From the shack of VK6 Echo Tango Ham Shack Clearance, we have an Electrocraft Kilo Papa Alpha -500 160 metre through to 6 metre auto tuning solid state linear amplifier, priced at $2,990 or nearest offer. That's a linear amplifier, $2,990 or nearest offer. We also have a UV Romeo 5 VHF UHF Bofang 5-watt handheld transceiver, complete with charging cradle, price $20 or nearest offer. I have an Acer Aspire 3 15.5-inch laptop, November 1 Charlie 4 Alpha 315-41 series, price $140 or nearest offer. Contact Tony, VK6 Alpha Tango India, on his mobile 0427 608 523. Again, 0472 608 523, or VK6LL on 089 528 6735, or email to Tango Alpha Romeo Golf Echo November Tango India at aussiebroadband.com.au. I also have a brand new condition ICOM IC450 80 channel UHF Charlie Bravo transceiver, and it's suitable for 12 or 24 volt DC supply. Comes complete with speaker microphone and for the control and for many functions. And if you're interested in that, priced at $175 or nearest offer. And please contact Clive, VK6 Charlie Sierra Whiskey, on his email address, which is Charlie Sierra Whiskey Alpha Lima Lima India Sierra at hotmail.com for further details on that 80 channel UHF CB transceiver. That's all I have for this week. Thank you once again for listening. If you're interested for next week, please contact me. Email VK6XRA Victor at bigpond.com. VK6XRA Victor at bigpond.com, and I'll get on to that straight away. Thank you very much, 7-3.
Hi there, it's Clinton, VK6FCRC, back with you. And did you know that Newswest is now on YouTube? Type in youtube.com/@Newswest weekly podcast -Kilo Zulu 7 Yankee Charlie. Oh, and before I go, I'd like to thank those watching on YouTube or ATV, the readers, and you for listening. I'd also like to thank our team, the broadcasters, and those submitting content each week. Please stand by now for callbacks after the broadcast, or head over to the VK6.net website and fill out the forms so we know how many people are listening each week.